idea that Jesus was simply raised on a spiritual level. The angel said, this is where he was. He is not here. He is risen. The very word resurrection means that which died being raised to life again. And it's very clear that Jesus Christ was raised bodily from the dead, according to the teachings of the Scriptures. But there are many groups today, even Christian groups, that are teaching all sorts of interesting things relevant to the time of the crucifixion and the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now you have some cults involved with this. The Worldwide Church of God, Armstrongism, publishes some little pamphlets. I brought some with me today. Here's a pamphlet published by the Worldwide Church of God called The Resurrection Was Not on Sunday. And they're basically saying that the resurrection took place on Saturday, the day before Sunday. What day was the resurrection? On page 8, for example, I'm looking at this, that Jesus was already risen at sunrise Sunday morning. Of course he was. He rose from the grave in the late afternoon near sunset on Saturday itself. And so they say that Jesus was buried late Wednesday afternoon. They place the time of the crucifixion as Wednesday. And they are literalists, and that is that they believe that Jesus had to be in the grave 72 hours. 72 hours exactly. And so if he was placed in the grave late afternoon Wednesday, Wednesday to Thursday, Thursday to Friday, Friday to Saturday, he would have had to have been raised on Saturday afternoon. It's interesting that there are a number of Christian groups that also push the idea of a Wednesday crucifixion. But they still worship on Sunday. They still call Sunday the Lord's Day, and they still say he rose early Sunday morning, but that would have placed the time beyond 72 hours in the tomb for the Lord Jesus. And I was a little bit surprised a couple weeks ago to get the April 1987 edition of The Evangelist, the voice of the Jimmy Swaggart Ministries. And on page 11 of this, under the caption, Brother Swaggart, here's my question, we read the question. It says, did Jesus really die on a Friday, which we now call Good Friday? If that is the case, how could it have been possible for him to have been in the grave for 3 full days and nights? And his answer says, no, Jesus was not crucified on a Friday. He was actually crucified on a Wednesday. He was put in the grave Wednesday just before sunset and was resurrected Saturday at sunset. The reason, I suppose, the church has mistaken Friday as the day of crucifixion is because the Scripture mentions the Sabbath, and people just assume that it was speaking of the regular Jewish Sabbath. There is no indication in the Bible that he was buried Friday at sunset. And then he goes on to basically present the same idea that was presented by Herbert W. Armstrong and the Worldwide Church of God and some other cultic and neo-cultic groups relevant to this idea that Jesus was buried on Wednesday afternoon. Resurrection of Jesus Christ. We've been talking about it for about an hour. We've looked at some of the modern theories that men have made up to explain away the resurrection of Christ. We've looked at what Jehovah's Witnesses believe about the resurrection, or they actually don't have a real resurrection. They have a recreation of Jesus Christ as Michael the Archangel. But now we're getting a little closer to home, because I know a number of Christian people who are putting forward the idea that Jesus Christ was crucified on Wednesday afternoon and then raised on Saturday afternoon and then appeared for the first time on Sunday. There are a number of reasons why people do this. First of all, the main reason that I understand is that they feel that it would be wrong to not hold to a literal 72-hour period. Jesus said that as Jonah was in the belly of the whale for 3 days and 3 nights, even so must the Son of Man be in the belly of the earth for 3 days and 3 nights. And the literalistic interpretation would mean that, beyond a shadow of a doubt, with no questions whatsoever, Jesus had to be in there an exact 72 hours. In fact, I'd imagine that they'd have to believe that if he was laid in the tomb at 4:02 p.m., that he burst free from the grave at 4:02 p.m. exactly as well. This is the main driving reason behind the many theories that have been given to support this idea of a Wednesday to Saturday crucifixion scheme. We're going to look a little bit more at that as we take some of our callers and listen to what they have to say. We're going to go to Glendale and we're having a little bit of a problem with the phone figuring out exactly how it's supposed to work. We're not in the normal studios we were when we did the program before, so I'm going to try talking to Ken in Glendale. Ken, are you there? And you can hear me. Okay.
Something for both of us here, if you bear with me for a minute. I'm no expert. We've talked before, and I'm a regular contributor. The situation you're talking about, this 3 days, now, I can't give you the verse. I think one of them has to do with Jonah and the whale. There are at least twice where Jesus says 3 days and 3 nights.
Right.
Okay, now, twice, 3 days and 3 nights. You have to give that credence. You have to say, if he twice specified 3 days and 3 nights, then you've got to think about it. The second thing is, as you may or may not know, I investigated quite substantially in the Worldwide Church of God, and thanks to the literature you provided me, I got away from it.
Uh-huh.
I think, though, that when people like Jimmy Swaggart and Fred Price and Dan Schaefer and Jerry Falwell and some of the better-known Pentecostal preachers, which I know you don't think a lot of, are going more and more to this 3-day thing because it literally makes sense when you look at the entire picture. And I'm talking, I sent you a column about a year and a half ago, and even though you may not care for the minister in which this article appeared, biblically and scripturally, it made total sense to me. And this has to do, again, I'm no big authority, with the double Passover day,
right,
that particular year, the Nisan or whatever it is.
14th of Nisan. Now.
Yeah.
You mentioned something about Jerry Falwell?
Yeah, because I'm on his mailing list too. I'm on a lot of them, and this question was asked to him, and of course, even Zola Levitt. Now, I don't know if you know Zola.
Yes.
But, okay, yes. Now Zola is coming to this conclusion. He has very emphatically said, well, maybe I'm changing my mind a little bit on this. Now, he hasn't come right out and specifically said that he buys the 3-day theory, but now he is challenging the old. Now, I don't know exactly, remember that the Worldwide Church of God probably did say 72 hours exactly, but I don't think you really, maybe they said that, but these